Rock stars thrive in the spotlight, but even legends can go unnoticed. Mick Jagger danced to his song. John Bon Jovi crashed a karaoke night, and no one had a clue.
Make it, I swear.
Fame fades in the strangest moments. Would you recognize your favorite rock star right beside you? Mick Jagger dances to his song, Unnoticed.
Mick Jagger have learned after 50 years in rock and roll.
Wow.
It's an exciting evening for us, for me.
Mick Jagger is one of the most recognizable rock stars in the world. As the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, he has spent decades performing in sold-out stadiums, being chased by fans and gracing magazine covers. His name is legendary, his voice is unmistakable, and his signature dance moves have inspired generations. Yet despite all of this, there was a moment when he danced to a song about himself in a room full of people and no one had a clue. One night, Jagger found himself at a bar where a cover band was performing. The place was lively, the drinks were flowing, and the crowd was having a great time. What made this particular night so unusual was the fact that the band started playing Moves Like Jagger, a song by Maroon 5 that was inspired by him. The song is a tribute to his iconic dance style, a celebration of his effortless swagger, and here he was, right in the middle of it all. Instead of standing in the corner unnoticed, he did exactly what anyone would expect Mick Jagger to do. He started dancing.
You don't earn a cent when someone does a song about having moves like Jagger.
That's right. That's a shame.
He swayed to the beat, moved his hips, and even threw in a few of his signature moves. The crowd around him was completely unaware that the man who had inspired the song was dancing just a few feet away. People laughed, sang along, and enjoyed the performance, but not one person turned around and said, "Wait a second, isn't that Mick Jagger?" The irony of the moment was almost poetic. The entire song is about someone having the same moves as Jagger, and yet the real Mick Jagger was dancing among them, unnoticed and anonymously. Robbie Williams' pink outfit didn't help.
Alien, at the same time as experiencing all of those things, was experiencing incredible hedonism in the most rock and roll manner, which is the antithesis of what I was supposed to be.
As one of the biggest pop and rock icons to come out of the UK, he's used to crowds screaming his name, paparazzi following his every move, and fans recognizing him no matter where he goes. But one particular walk through London's Hyde Park gave him a taste of something very different: complete and total anonymity. And he wasn't happy about it.
Me and Gary Barlow, X Factor. Do you know what? We would have been an amazing double act. It's just come to me. Me and Gaz, as a duo, as a band, could have absolutely conquered the world.
Dressed head to toe in bright pink, including pink sneakers and sparkling Diamante sunglasses, he expected at least a few heads to turn. After all, how often do you see a man strutting through the park in such a bold outfit? More importantly, how could people not recognize him? In the 90s and early 2000s, Robbie was one of the biggest stars in the world, selling out stadiums and topping charts. Yet on this day, he was just another pedestrian, walking unnoticed through one of London's busiest parks.
And I look very dapper. The reality of everything is always disappointing. It's just a bun fight. The best part of being in Cannes and being a famous person, I suppose, is your glam squad and getting ready.
He even joked about standing on a street corner just to see if anyone would finally recognize him. There was something almost comical about it. A man who had spent years trying to escape overwhelming attention was suddenly desperate for someone, anyone, to acknowledge his presence. It was a strange reminder that fame isn't always permanent. What once seemed inescapable can, over time, fade away. Next up, Sir Paul McCartney takes the train like a regular guy.
Was in the dream. She came to me in the dream. It's a magic moment because you're actually there with your mother. So she seemed to know that I was a bit stressed out, and she said, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine."
As one of the founding members of the Beatles, he helped change music forever. There was a time when he couldn't step outside without being mobbed by fans. And even decades after the height of Beatlemania, he remains one of the most famous musicians in the world. But even legends can have moments where they blend in with the crowd. And that's exactly what happened when McCartney took a quiet train ride without anyone realizing who he was.
Joined the Beatles. I should know that. Yeah, I mean, I was like a teenager, and John had a group that was actually called the Quarrymen.
There's something almost surreal about picturing a Beatle sitting casually in a train carriage, completely unnoticed. The man who once performed in front of screaming crowds of thousands was now just another passenger watching the world go by through the window. The fact that nobody recognized him makes the story even more fascinating. People were probably sitting right next to him, completely unaware that they were sharing a train with one of the greatest musicians of all time.
It's a few little instruments like that. Is Paul McCartney happy? Oh, yes, at this moment. Don't get me mad. Is Paul McCartney...
One passenger, however, did notice something unusual. Instead of recognizing McCartney outright, they simply filmed him, as if they had a strange feeling that this man was someone important. Maybe it was his presence. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, or maybe it was just a gut feeling. But at that moment, McCartney sat in silence, undisturbed, enjoying a rare moment of peace in public. Steven Tyler joins a busker on the street. Steven Tyler has spent most of his life on stage, belting out rock anthems and electrifying crowds with his unmistakable voice. As the lead singer of Aerosmith, he has one of the most recognizable voices in rock history. Fans can pick him out just from the first few notes of a song. But one day, in an unexpected and almost unbelievable moment, he sang one of Aerosmith's biggest hits on the street, and no one even realized who he was. While out and about, Tyler stumbled upon a street performer playing "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing," one of Aerosmith's most famous songs. It was the kind of moment that any fan would dream of. Imagine singing a legendary song only to have the actual rock star behind it step in and join you. That's exactly what happened. Without hesitation, Tyler jumped in and started singing alongside the busker. His powerful, raspy voice filled the air, blending effortlessly with the music. The most surprising part of the whole thing? People just enjoyed the performance without recognizing him. This is Steven Tyler, a rock icon. With a career spanning over 5 decades, a man whose image is as famous as his voice. But at that moment, he was just another musician on the street. People clapped, cheered, and smiled, but no one ran up to him screaming or asking for selfies. They were simply lost in the music, unaware that they were witnessing something truly special. Rod Stewart sings his song on the streets. His raspy, soulful sound has been a part of rock history for decades, and his songs are known all over the world. With a career that spans generations, you'd think people would recognize him instantly. But one day, he blended so seamlessly into a street performance that no one even realized they were listening to the real Rod Stewart. One afternoon, Stewart stumbled upon a busker singing one of his classic hits. Instead of just watching from a distance, he decided to join in. For a musician of his status, it was a rare and unfiltered moment. A chance to perform without the pressure of a big audience, no stadium lights, no expectations. It was just him, the busker, and the music. His voice, which has filled arenas and stadiums, echoed through the streets like any other street performer trying to make a living. The most incredible part? No one in the crowd recognized him. People stopped to listen, enjoying the performance, but not one person realized they were standing just a few feet away from a rock legend. To them, he was just another talented street musician, adding a bit of magic to their day. It was almost surreal. A man who had spent decades in the spotlight, whose face had been plastered on album covers and billboards, had become completely anonymous in that moment. Seal shocks a street singer with a live duet. Street performers are used to entertaining strangers. They sing for passersby, hoping for a few claps, a smile, or maybe some spare change. What they don't expect is to be joined by an actual world-famous singer. That's exactly what happened when a street performer invited a kind-looking man to sing with her. She had no idea she was about to perform with Seal. The singer, known for his deep, soulful voice and iconic songs like "Kiss from a Rose," blended into the crowd effortlessly. He wasn't surrounded by bodyguards, there were no flashing cameras, and there was nothing flashy about his presence. He simply stood there, watching the performer sing. When she invited him to join her, he smiled, stepped forward, and started singing along. His voice, smooth and powerful, filled the air. The street musician had no clue that the stranger standing next to her had won multiple Grammy Awards and sold millions of albums worldwide. As they continued singing together, Seal decided to have a little fun. he pulled out his phone and started streaming the performance live. It was at that moment that everything changed. The realization slowly hit the street performer. She noticed the way people were reacting, the way he carried himself, and most importantly, the way he sang. The disbelief was clear on her face. The man she had casually invited to sing along wasn't just another pedestrian. He was a superstar. Jon Bon Jovi's karaoke surprise. Karaoke nights are all about fun, singing your heart out, and pretending to be a rock star for a few minutes. For most people, it's just a night of harmless entertainment. But for one group of unsuspecting karaoke singers, their night took an unforgettable turn when they found themselves performing in front of Jon Bon Jovi without realizing it. Dressed in disguise, Bon Jovi walked into the karaoke bar like any regular person. There were no red carpets, no VIP sections, just a room full of people enjoying music. At some point, a group of women took the stage and started singing "Livin' on a Prayer," one of his biggest hits. They were completely in the moment, laughing and singing at the top of their lungs. Little did they know, the man who made that song famous was standing right there watching them.
What were those moments like when you were sifting through all of the back catalogue? Because there were moments in the movie where you're literally going through tape
cassettes and notebooks.
Back in the day, and then you see this moment where you watch yourself.
Bon Jovi could have just sat back and enjoyed the performance, but that's not his style. Instead, he decided to take the surprise to the next level. At the perfect moment, he stepped forward and joined in, belting out the lyrics alongside the stunned karaoke singers. His voice was unmistakable, and it didn't take long for them to realize what was happening. The reaction was nothing short of legendary. At first, there was shock. Their faces froze as they processed who had just joined them. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.